Well, welcome to the 1334 podcast.
Thank
My
you.
name is Blake Barlow, and today I'm joined with Rosalind Fliggins.
Yes.
Rosalind is a huge part of Open Arms here in Albany, Georgia, and what they do. Rosalind, could you give us a little introduction about who you are and what you guys do?
Okay, I am Rosalind Fliggins, and I'm the Associate Executive Director for Open Arms. And Open Arms is an umbrella organization that does a ton of work right here in Albany, Georgia. Our focus is abused, homeless, runaway, and trafficked youth. Our specialty, what we do is providing shelter, but also supportive services. So we don't just want to house them. We want to provide those services that are going to support them on their path to make sure that they're stable and they're secure throughout their lives. That's what we hope to have, a lifelong impact, so they don't end up falling victim to the circumstances that brought them to us in the first place.
Do you have any stories that immediately stick out to you when you think about Open Arms?
Yes. Well, I think probably my first day at Open Arms, and I had this concept of what I thought, abuse looked like, what I thought a group home was, and I was just totally shocked my first day at work. And I walk into this home, it's The Bridge. The Bridge was our first program. It started in 1991, and it was this beautiful 6-bedroom home out in Lee County. And you hear a ton of playing and kids everywhere. And I remember this young baby, and she couldn't have been any more than like 2 years old. And she ran, just as I opened the door, she ran right up to me. And she was like, "Mama." And so, I had all kind of mixed feelings about that because I knew the population that was served. But to come to find out, she had what they call reactive attachment disorder, which a lot of kids that end up in foster care or otherwise displaced for other reasons, they have it. And it has two spectrums. Either kids are overly affectionate because they haven't had that time to bond with the person that was supposed to be there to bond with them, or they're completely secluded. They don't talk to themselves, just all isolated. And so this baby was on the spectrum of everybody was mama. She was always happy, things of that sort. But we also had kids in there that were on the other side of the spectrum. But I just remember, just in my mind, when I think group home, I'm thinking institution, I'm thinking all the kids are, crying and in the dark and all that. But it was a home. It was a beautiful home that was created for them. When they come in, they had literally just the clothes on their backs, but you see them progress with the staff that's there, who really, nobody's paid enough for what they do with Open Arms, because the work that goes into the kids and into their lives to make sure they're okay is priceless. But they come there and they develop these bonds with these incredible staff members who take it to heart. A lot of times they're paying out of their pocket for things they don't have to. It's because they want to. The kids get so attached to them, and they end up having a life with them. They're spending holidays with us most times. The weekends, sometimes some kids go away with parents and other kids don't, and so you're stuck with that. But I just remember that story. Getting back to your question, that story stuck out. Another story that stuck out with me was a kid that he was 17 years old. He stood about 6'4", could be on anybody's football team, but he had this real hard exterior. I mean, just, you couldn't tell him anything. And it was Thanksgiving. And I remember being Thanksgiving, he had only one family member that could even be considered for placement, because the abuse that had happened, it was generational. Nobody was suitable for him to go back. And he had stayed with us. It was over a year he had been with us, and there was still no suitable placement. And so back then, after about 1.5 to 2 years, the court starts to petition for termination of parental rights, because they don't want the kid to just be stuck in foster care. So he was close to that, but the aunt was still, she would talk on the phone, but she was very inconsistent. We knew she was inconsistent, but she was supposed to be there on Thanksgiving. And I remember sitting with him on the porch. At that time, we had a porch swing at the Bridge. It had to be from at least 3 o'clock till the sun was going down. And he just looking down the road to see if she's gonna come. Sun ends up going down, and I think by then it set in. We had already kind of knew that she's not gonna show, because this is just what she does. And he goes back into the house when it finally sets in, and he just falls, and he gets into a fetal position, and he is bawling. And this is the first time we have ever seen this kid just any kind of like real emotion, but all of that he was holding in came out at that time. And just being there, it makes you realize how blessed you are, and how unfortunate these kids are.
Yeah.
And it puts things in perspective really quickly.
How did you get started with Open Arms?
The crazy story is my best friend was working there.
Really?
Yeah, and I was at Darton at that time. And Darton, I'm aging myself. Of course, Darton is Albany State West now. But I was finishing my degree in psychology, and I wanted to work in the field. And the position came open, and I got hired there. And
Really?
That was in 2001. And so, yeah, that's the rest of it's history. And I've been blessed to grow with the company,
Yeah.
to be able to develop programs that support the other programs within the agency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What drove you to Open Arms? Was it just like, oh, there's an opening? Or because I know a lot of people so people ask me, what nonprofits do you do work with?
Mm-hmm.
Who have you worked with? And Open Arms is one of the first ones I talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time they're like, what's Open Arms?
Mm-hmm.
And I always want to be like, dude, you have no idea
Right.
not only what you guys do in the community,
Mm-hmm.
but how long you've done it.
Exactly. Over 30
And
years.
People have no idea. And
Mm-hmm.
that was part of the reason I was like, hey, can you get on this podcast as soon as possible?
Well, I'm grateful. I think the thing that my friend had talked a lot about it, but I think when you realize how blessed you are,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one thing that I realized, and even knowing some of my classmates were experiencing abuse and homelessness and things of that sort. And I come from a well-off family, 2-parent household. Everything that I needed was pretty much provided. But to literally be sitting in the same environment with people who have no idea what that is,
Mm-hmm.
who don't know where they're going to lay their heads, who don't know where their next meal is coming from, who are still trying to push through school and a lot of times camouflaging how they feel. It just put it in perspective, and I wanted to give back because I was blessed, first of all, to have what they did not have, but I was also blessed to have a heart and a passion and a calling from, what I believe God has called me to do is to reach out to these people and to help them when other people didn't help them. The people that they counted on, the people that were supposed to raise them, the people that were supposed to take care of them didn't.
Yeah.
And so that's just near and dear to my heart. It's always been the less fortunate. And I believe that, God calls us to those, to help those, especially when he's given us so much.
Mhm.
And we don't realize how the little we consider little means so much to them.
Yeah.
Things we take for granted every day.
That immediately reminds me of the passage where they're at the gate and he says, I don't have money, but what I
Right.
do have, I give you. And it's the
Right,
same
right.
way, like, we're blessed, whether it be financially or
Exactly.
even two parents that are still alive and together or
Exactly.
in your life at all.
Right, right.
Like, there's different levels and people, it's really easy to forget, like,
Mhm. And it's just, you count it as blessings and you really just don't realize it. And I think as I became a mother and it becomes even more apparent as a parent, how can somebody, the person that you gave birth to, how can you do some of the things that has happened to these kids? How can
Mhm.
you abandon them? How can you see them hurting? How can you choose somebody else over them?
yeah.
And every situation isn't like that, but I would say 80% of the cases that we see is just, the failure to do the basic things for a kid. And we wonder where a lot of the crime, suicide, substance abuse, a lot of that stems. And statistically, we can look back in their history. And if I remember the statistics right, about 70% have experienced some kind of a child abuse or neglect in some form. And it's just transcended over into their adulthood or even to their teenage years. Because right now we're experiencing a lot of teenagers that are coming who literally stay with us for years. When I first came to Open Arms, we wouldn't see kids stay as long as they are now.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you
And
think
so
that is?
People what we've seen is generationally, people, the generations of abuse is certain people and certain families. I don't call any names, but we can almost tell when that name comes across, this kid isn't going back home.
Really?
We know grandfathers who have groomed granddaughters to do X, Y, or Z, and we know when they're coming through that nothing's going to change. Substance abuse, of course, is on the rise. COVID was a huge part of it. That
Did that make it worse?
it made it worse. It made it worse because people, first of all, if they were supposed to be working a case plan and were not able to get a job, that the kid's not going back home. You don't have the financial stability to go back home. Some of them, because of the isolation, substance abuse got worse. So as they're being drug tested, they're not clean. Kid can't go back home. So a lot of kids were just staying and staying and staying. And in the past few years, we've seen more kids graduate. We're happy they graduate from high school, but it's sad that you have to be in a group home for 4 years and just for nobody. There's no grandparent that can come up, no aunt, no uncle, no cousin, no family friend, nobody. And I realize that's what they have to deal with in the dealing with the group home. I mean, we try to make it as beautiful as we can, but I know that's always in their head, that you're here because nobody wants you. And so what we want to do is show you that we want you and we want the best for you. And so that's what our staff and our directors are charged with doing, is to make them feel like this is their home, because literally it is. And it's the last home that a lot of them will know before they branch off into adulthood. Yeah.
So the kids that are coming in, they're graduating and then going and getting jobs and apartments and stuff?
Yes, because we have several different programs, and that's every program that we have kind of is birthed from another one. The Bridge was our starting point, which was, like I said, 1991. There was a need for a home for kids that did not have a foster home and any other placement, and so the Bridge was birthed from there. And as the Bridge was here, we started to see kids aging out of care but with nowhere to go. And that's where our transitional living program comes in. And so that program, if they've exited foster care or just otherwise homeless between the ages of 18 to 22, they start off in a shelter. A lot of times, at 18 we thought we were grown and we're able to do a lot of things legally, but as far as knowing the real world, we don't. And when you've had a kid that has been displaced and all the things that happen to them, they're further behind. So to think that they're ready to branch off into the world at 18, a lot of times is not even realistic. So that program really starts to teach them the independent living skills on how to do a resume, how to dress for an interview, how to maintain a home, even relationships, because that gets to be an issue too, because you haven't had that grounding as far as what a relationship looks like as far as your parents, because you didn't have that in your home. And so teaching all of those things so they can be ready for the real world, giving them the life skills. We use evidence-based practices on teaching them different curriculums. And so as they matriculate through the shelter, we put them into their own apartments. And so that is always fun to see them, to get into their own apartments and the awe that's on their face that this is all mine.
They start decorating?
Oh, yeah. They decorate. Of course, some of them want to have friends over. We have to cater that because, people will take advantage of them. This kid is out, and everything's fully furnished. All their bills are paid and everything. And what we do is graduate them out in phases. So after they get to a certain point with their income, our goal is for them to have 3 months worth of income saved. So if you just leave and everything fails, you got 3 months to kind of get it together. But once they get to that point, we'll have them to assume maybe the utility bill, and they'll pay that for a couple of months to get in the habit. Then they'll assume the next bill until all the bills are theirs. And really what we're doing during that time is having them to save it. You put it aside. You cannot touch it because it's still coming back to you. But as you go out into the real world, this is a bill that you're going to have to pay. So, and teaching them that stuff. And it's just so beautiful to see. Sometimes they stay. Sometimes some go to the military. We had some that go into the medical field, finish college, different trades. The transitional living program is, it was the second program I worked in, probably one of the hardest ones to leave, because with the Bridge, I love the Bridge, but a lot of times if they go back home, sometimes it's just always that, what really happens? We follow them for a little bit, but it's only so long that we can. But with transitional living, you get to see, kind of where they are and to see them develop into adults and to achieve those things that they want to achieve. Yeah. So it's beautiful. And we also have a maternity group home because the reality is sometimes they do get into the unfortunate circumstances of teen pregnancy and things of that sort. So it's just like transitional living, except we focus really on parenting with that too, because we don't want them to become neglectful or become abusers just by default because they just don't know. And so there's heavy parenting skills for those kids that are young and have the situation of having to take care of a kid too. So those two programs are part of the independent living portion of what we do, and they can be there for up to 18 months. Yeah.
Do you have any numbers of how many kids have come through the transitional living?
Oh, wow. Well, each year we transition about 10 youth in that program. So transitional living was here. I came in 2001. I remember it being fully established about 2003. So ever since then, 10 or more each year, kids that otherwise would be exiting foster care, being homeless, a lot of times being involved in prostitution, that you see them turn around and
well over 100.
Yeah, it is.
That's
it is
crazy.
A beautiful, beautiful thing. I love those programs. Yeah.
So that's 2. Do you have more programs than that?
We do. We have.
Or 3, sorry.
It's okay. We have a family shelter as well. A lot of that was birthed from. We talk about circumstances. Everything isn't abuse. Sometimes it's just, we know Albany is stricken with a lot of poverty, and sometimes people just fall on hard times. Good people, good intentions, hard times. And so with the family shelter, it's our most intense as far as time. They have 30 days. And it's for the people that are just falling in between the gaps, that need a helping hand to get through. And so with that program, they're in a shelter, but they have an assigned life coach who is working intensely with them every single day to make sure that they're able to get a job and to find placement. So we have priority placements with housing vouchers and things of that sort. The waiting lists are kind of waived for our people because they understand that we're in a crunch. Mm-hmm. And so we move them from that shelter into permanent housing within those 30 days. And sometimes if it's some repairs or things of that sort, we do grant extensions because we know that's beyond right now just the circumstances with everything being high and workers and things of that sort. It might take a little longer to get an apartment ready or home ready, and so we'll grant them extension to get the time to get that together. And once they leave, they are over that circumstance, that the kid does not have to come into foster care because I don't have a home right now.
Yeah.
But we can stay as a family unit in here until I get it together. And the other programs we have are outreach, and so all the shelters work on intervention, but we want to do prevention. We want to kind of stop before it starts. And so these teams actually go out into the community and address certain needs. They go out where kids are. They go out in areas where we know prostitution and things of that sort are going on. We want to go where they are. And we have a team of people that goes out on a regular basis to build relationships because everybody's not ready to exit the streets. That's just the reality. Some of them are scared of going into social services, scared of the law, things of that sort, because they don't know what resources are out there. And so the outreach team is there to give them those basic needs just on the streets. They carry food, they carry hygiene items, things of that sort. Just every time they go out, they can get it free of charge. And we also have a drop-in center as a part of outreach. So if they want to come in and wash their clothes or just come in and get a shower because they've been on the streets last night and didn't have anywhere to go, but you don't want them to be just dirty going out, especially if they're looking for a job or things of that sort, they can come in there and wash their clothes. They can come in and get clothes. We have a clothing closet. They can get something to eat. We have computers for them to use, video games, all kind of stuff. We just want to be a safe place for young people to come to get the things they need, so they know that you don't have to resort to criminal means to get your needs met. Yeah. And so that's located right there on Pine Avenue, 603 Pine. And, of course, they pass that information out when they go out as well. So we have different outreach programs. There's outreach for the families, outreach for the youth as well. And our most recent one is through the through the Housing and Urban Development, through HUD. It's the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project. This is Georgia's first year receiving the funding, and we're blessed to be able to receive that funding. And so what this project aims to do is to use youth to reach youth. So it's building a team of young people to go out and reach other young people. That's cool. And there are incentives built in for them. We know some things, but we know, like I said, I'm aging myself. I might not know how to do TikTok and things of that sort, but they know. And so they give us insight and create content and things of that sort so they can reach people that are their age, and they can tell us how we need to be approaching them, because we have an idea, but they're the experts on them. And so that's what that program is all about. Yeah.
I have like a 2-part question, I guess.
Okay.
So it seems like the main driving factor based off your programs would be family and the family unit. Mm-hmm. But what would you say is your driving factor within Open Arms, but Open Arms, like what's driving Open Arms?
What's okay? So our driving factor, of course, is the youth, in and of themselves, because most of our clients are unaccompanied youth, and although we have the family shelter, all the other programs focus on those youth that don't have the family but need the help. So the driving factor is that we don't want any young person to be without their basic needs, but to not, and we say basic needs, and we consider food, clothing, shelter, but the basic need of love and support and belonging, acceptance. That is what we are all about, is to give them those things, because if they don't have those things, then they're going to seek them. And where do you seek love? And where do you seek support? Where do you seek acceptance? If you look at gangs, it's acceptance. It's a sense of family. If you look at love, you look at a lot of times the prostitution or the trafficking and things of that sort. And it leads to those things. And so our driving factor, if we can save them by providing those needs that have been unmet or that have been stripped from them, then we can influence this whole community. The only thing, and I forget what the quote is, but the only way, it won't matter what kind of car you drive. 100 years from now, it won't matter what kind of car you drove, what kind of home you live in. It's going to matter the difference you made in the life of a child, because that's what's lasting.
Yeah.
When you talk about legacy, that's what it is who's going to be here that you poured into, that will continue to pour, because our hope is that as these young people have realized that, a lot of things save them, that they'll reach back and help somebody else along the way, and that it continues, that it's a domino effect, that love and acceptance is contagious, that their relationships become better, that the kids that they have won't become victims of abuse, to change the trajectory of all of their lives, right? And if we're going to change Albany, got to start with the people that are in the schools, the kids that are in schools, or the kids that are supposed to be in school that are not. That's what we want to do. We want to change our communities, starting with the people that's going to be here long after we're gone. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the counterfeit analogy. Like, you have $2 bills in front of you. You need the right one and not the counterfeit. And often we're looking for a counterfeit for love, a counterfeit for acceptance, a counterfeit for community.
Right.
But when you have the real thing, it's entirely different.
Right.
That's what that reminds me a lot of, trying to give the youth the real thing, which is really cool.
Right. And I say, the thing about it is that there's always an imitation. Anything that God has tried to do, Satan has tried to imitate, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to show them. And we don't push one religion or anything, but, we can look at it spiritually or carnally or however, that we're going to give you the right way to look at things, to do things, to receive things, as far as receiving love and what it should look like. And one thing we do work with our staff is on modeling, what we want them to see. We don't, if there's some discord with the staff, we're going to pull them to the side. Hey, they don't need to see this. We're going to talk about this and handle this. If something is going on with your family, you go take care of that. That's one thing we're really big on, is staff being able to take care of their issues, so they can take care of these kids with a whole lot more issues than we have. So,
like, taking care of yourself first.
You have to. And this is a field where burnout is so common.
So how have you done it for so long? I know a lot, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I know a lot of nonprofits, they only last a few years, or the leadership does, or the board does. They only last a few years because of burnout, or like you get 3 years in, I don't see the change that I wanted, and you go do something else,
Right. It's for me, it's the grace of God. And every time, and I do a lot of self-care. I am very intentional on self-care. There are sometimes I shut down. There are sometimes when if I'm off, I used to have my email on my phone. I took it off, my work email. I took it off because you can. And although it's a beautiful and it's a noble thing to want to be there all the time, you can't be everything to everybody. And we have forever. Not forever. And you have to take time to pour into yourself and those people that are around you, because although I'm at work, I still have family. I still have people that care and that love me and that I love. And so I have to take time to pour into them and have to be intentional, because there were times that I got completely wrapped up into work. And you do. You get tired. You get tired of, it seems like abuse will never end. You get tired of seeing kids hurt. You get tired of sometimes the politics behind it. It's just like, we just want to help. Yeah. I don't want to do a whole bunch of paperwork. I really want to just work with these kids. And so that can be a lot. Like I said, it's not a highly paid field, but the intangible rewards are amazing. And one thing our leadership is incredible about is making a whole lot of intangible rewards. When it comes to, if somebody's sick, if you got a parent sick, you got a kid sick or whatever, we're going to make sure your family is taken care of, that you're not worried about how you're going to pay this bill, that bill. We're going to make sure you're okay, because if you're not okay, then the kids that we're serving are not okay. Yeah. And so, but as far as me, I take regular vacations. I've done therapy because you can get lost in it. I've started to recognize the signs of burnout. And so when I feel close to it, I pull back. And I pour into me, and I make sure that I have a circle of people that pour into me as well. I do things that are fulfilling, and that's fun for me.
From a full cup kind of thing.
You have to, because you can get empty. Yeah, you can get empty really quick in this field, and so that's one of the things that I've been intentional about, and we definitely encourage our staff. We have a designated self-care day for them. We do little fun things. That's cool. So we try to just work together. Even now with worker shortages and things of that sort, they have pulled together so amazingly. And cool. We've sought extra dollars to help different hazard pay and things during COVID. We do a lot to try to help. But this is one thing that God has been really good for me is any time that I get to that point where I'm just, He gives me a kid that reminds me why I started in the first place. Every single time, that this is why I'm here. And they'll do it. It'll be a kid that might have been here 10 years ago who'll stop by the office. And they're just doing amazing. And there's one, and he was working at Albany State, working with engagement and other young people. And I remember him and his brother being there, and them not having anybody. They were from another city, because we take referrals as far as foster care from all over the state, and there was nobody there for them, and he came back, and just to see him doing amazing. Another one, he's a teacher in Doherty County school system now, and so that right there is like, this is why you're here. This is what would have happened if we had not been there. Where would this person have been? Yeah. And so that's why, like, even when it's time to retire, I'm like, maybe I need to hang around a little bit longer, because I'm getting close to that age to where it's time to retire. And that's why I'm really intentional. I'm really excited about this new program, the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project, to bring in this next era of young people that are going to help the next generation. Yeah. Yeah.
Like almost hiring your replacement.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, trying to build up a plan of succession as well as legacy. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the future of Open Arms, trying to leave something solid and something that can continue to serve, because, like, we want abuse to end. That would be our hope. Realizing that it may never. Mm-hmm. But as long as we got somebody there to support youth, we got a fighting chance. Yeah. Yeah.
As long as it's one person saved, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's Starfish story. So, yeah. If it's just one, and you never know what that one is going to be, what they're going to turn out, and what influence they'll have. Yeah. Yeah.
So you talk a lot about legacy. Mm-hmm. How do you see legacy impacting each one of these kids that's come through the program?
I see, first of all, them, when I talk about legacy, I always look at the what ifs, right? And where they would have been. And that's so important, that we look at, this is why you're doing it. Yeah. Because there's always another path they could have taken. So,
like the guy coming back 10 years later.
Exactly. And so what we see legacy being is, first of all, them going into a healthier path. Mm-hmm. But teaching them, although we were here, we're only here for a certain period of time. Remember what was done for you. because a lot of times the sense of gratitude is not immediate. They don't see it till years down the line, some of them, and that's okay. And we understand, considering what they've been through, it's hard sometimes to see gratitude when you're stuck in trauma. But with the legacy is that we don't see another generation, at least not for the ones that were in our care, becoming offenders or becoming victims of circumstance again. They're overcomers. And not only that, they become advocates for what we're doing, that they carry it on. And it might not be working in an agency. It might just be, being an incredible parent. It might be just being a teacher. It might be being a mentor. But to pass that on, that even if it's not per se through Open Arms, it's through the influence that Open Arms had. Because we don't know. Not like you said, nonprofits come and go. But when we're talking about influence, that's what we really want to last. Years and years and years from now. And as I've been here, over 20-something years, I'm able to see it, and I'm able to see the impact. One of the things that my mother had always instilled in us is as far as legacy, will it have mattered that you've been here on this planet once you leave? And so, and I adopted that as one of, my mottos, but also, making this world a better place than I found it. And so in 20-something years, I can say that I've done that. And so, and I know, God still has me breathing. There's still purpose, but I know that purpose I've walked in, I'm continuing to walk in, and I'm hoping that the kids and the young people that we influence walk into that as well. And that's what I see legacy being, is that it's passed on and that its influence makes things better, that Albany becomes better, Dougherty County, and hopefully even as they go into different ways, because a lot of people leave Albany, unfortunately, but wherever they go, that legacy is passed on to the people that are around them, the youth that are around them, and then the ones that they give birth to or that they mentor, anybody they come in contact with, that Open Arms influence of reaching people who need it is done, and it becomes an innate part of them.
I mean, honestly, that's the only way to actually stop anything.
Right.
You can't. It's not like what's the analogy? You cut the head off the snake kind of thing. You can't do that.
Right. It's
not how these types of problems work.
Exactly.
It's a very complex problem. It's not necessarily complicated, but it's really complex.
A lot of parts.
And it makes so much sense what you guys are doing, from the kids to the transitional living to the maternity homes, and making sure that families are put together, and not even families like right now, but will be
families in the future,
15 years from now, because then their 3 kids are in an entirely different spot,
right,
and then the 9 kids that come from them, you know what I mean?
And it continues,
and
that's legacy.
And that's how it all changes, whether they realize it comes back to Open Arms or not. Honestly, it wouldn't even matter.
All it is that it happens, and it's like I said, a generation that, like I said, we can't stop abuse across the board, but we can stop it here. We can stop it with this family. We can stop it with this kid. And like you said, as we're living and we're going on, and it grows exponentially, so many other people are affected. And I'm if I have to say anything that motivates me, that's it. That this never ends. Long after, I'm called home, that will continue. So I'm passionate about what we do, and that's why I've been here so long, and to have been through and even develop different programming to address issues that we saw, because that was an issue. Like at the bridge, like when they turn 18, where are they gonna go? And you saw things happening to the 18-year-old who was out there and had nowhere else to go. And so we can talk about the problem, or we could come up with a solution. And so it was one. And so I'm just so blessed to see over the years how Open Arms has grown and responded to the issues that they identified with the kids that are there, but also the issues that are in the community. So I'm excited about the future of it. I'm excited about our past.
You guys perfectly resemble the just do it mindset. Like, you can talk about it all day. You can, think up new solutions. Or you can just do something. And if it doesn't work, figure something else out. Do it again.
Keep trying.
And just keep trying until it works.
And every time you try, it's going to be, you're going to get a lesson from something.
That's where each one of these programs has come from.
Exactly.
You had the home well, what happens to them now?
Right.
Oh, well, let's build this one.
Yeah.
What happens to the young moms?
Right.
Oh, well, let's build this.
Exactly. And everything, that's what I love about it. And as the outreach came later, and there was a portion of outreach that was there, but intentional outreach on how do we reach the kids and the young people before they even get to the home. And so that might have come backwards, but hey, we still built a continuum.
A lot of people do it the other way, but I feel like what you did is the right way, because you see a problem, you start solving it.
Right.
Find something and let's just start doing something.
Exactly.
That's what I did with this. Like nonprofits don't have the money to pay somebody with microphones and cameras.
Exactly. And we are
to
so
go
grateful
record.
for y'all.
But I know how to do it, so let's just do something.
Right.
Start anywhere, you know?
Right.
And I feel like that's exactly what you guys did. You just started somewhere, and then you just built on it. And you're like, well, actually, maybe we should do the outreach thing now, which is great.
Let's do the prevention. So instead of intervention, let's prevent it.
So how can somebody get involved? I know you have outreach, but let's say somebody watches this and they're like, I really want to get involved. Like, do they just donate, or is there like a volunteer option? Like, how can somebody get
There are
involved?
so many ways they can get involved. Volunteers were kind of on hold just because of COVID, but we're getting back into the swing of things with volunteers, volunteer mentors, and things of that sort.
What does a volunteer do?
Well, we build our volunteers based around their talents. So if there's somebody, we had a volunteer who was just excellent in arts. So she did arts and crafts because we want it to be an equally rewarding experience for both the volunteer and the youth. We don't want to just assign them something just to do. Yeah. And if there are some that just don't know what to do, we'll give you something to do. But we do try to build on the volunteers' talents and then go from there. But we have them sometimes to be mentors. Sometimes if we're having events, they can come there. It can be as simple as it's being an advocate a lot of times in the community. Some people do drives and things of that sort. Of course, money is always welcome. I would definitely say that, but everybody doesn't have money, and you don't have to have money to make a difference. I think a lot of people think that, and that's not it.
That's huge. You could say that like 17 times.
Yeah, you don't have to have money. You just have to have a heart.
Yeah.
And I seriously mean that. There was a young lady who used to come by every week and just bring canned goods.
That's cool.
And for somebody that's coming to the drop-in center who's homeless and didn't have anything, her consistency feeds that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's something as simple as that. I tell people as far as donations, we operate our homes as homes. They're not institutions. So everything you use at your home, we use at ours. From toilet paper to whatever you buy for your home, you can say times 12 at ours, each one of those. So anything that you use at your home, we're going to use at our house, as well as just time. If you have some time just to mentor a youth or just to talk. Sometimes that's all they need, because after a while, these are staff, and sometimes they do feel like, oh, they're here for a job, even though they can display everything else. It's just after a while, when you've been there, that's what it feels like, and it's hard. So to have somebody from the outside who's not getting paid or anything, to come in and really be vested and interested in what you are and in what you're doing, that means a lot. So definitely donate. Volunteer. The volunteer applications are on our website. We are hiring. Of course, we are short-staffed. So if there's somebody that has a passion for youth, it's experience with children, whether it's volunteer or work, that qualifies, we definitely need some workers in all of our programs. So somebody that is looking for a job, like I said, the pay isn't incredible, but the payoff is. We'll just say that. You won't find a place like Open Arms that you can work in and that you'll be fulfilled. I can guarantee you that. Yeah. So those are some ways to do it. Continue to pray for us. We do solicit prayers for the kids. So as you're saying your prayers, pray for our kids, their circumstances, their families. Pray for the staff. Pray for the case managers that are working these cases, the judges, everybody involved in this process. Pray for the prosecutors, that these offenders, people that are truly abusing kids and leaving them and abandoning them, that, justice is served. It's a lot of prayers that we do solicit. Like I said, we're not a faith-based organization, but we got a lot of people of faith in the organization. So, and I'm one of them. And so I do solicit prayers on every aspect of that, even as we're seeking out funding, that we are successful in securing that for these kids, because everything is a competition. We're not guaranteed funding every year. I'm in my grant season now, trying to secure funding for transitional. We have to compete this year for funding, and so this funding would be for 5 years. And so if we don't get
that's huge.
Right. So you can realize how impactful that is. And there are only 72 available for the entire nation. So we're competing against people all over the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah. So I solicit prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any piece of advice you would want to give to someone that is working in a nonprofit
Mm-hmm.
that they've been there for a few years and they just don't seem as hopeful as you do
Mm-hmm.
with whatever their mission and vision is?
Mm-hmm. Remember why you started. That is my thing, that when I get to that point, when I feel like, oh, this is it, oh, things aren't going to change, or I'm just exhausted, I'm empty, I remember why I started. I remember that kid, my first day. I remember the kid that's on Thanksgiving who doesn't have anybody there. I remember the kid that comes back and says, I'm doing this now, I'm okay now. And I even remember, because every situation isn't always so hopeful, I remember a young person who had been with us years ago and was murdered over on Highland. And I remember seeing his face, and I remember his circumstance to the T. And that stuff hurts.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't save everybody, but you have to try.
Yeah.
And so remember why you started. Don't give up. Try to stay motivated. That nonprofits are crucial to this community. I'll tell anybody, Albany is so primed for grants because of our statistics. They're horrible. But we can be the good in the good life city. And I am a believer in that the good in the good life city, it's us.
Yeah.
And it's up to us. Yeah. So that's what I remember why you started. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all for always being an advocate for us and for getting the word out. One thing that I struggle with, because this is part of my little struggle, is I don't really tell the story. And I guess a lot of people have clients that they bring and things of that sort, and I'm definitely not one that does the whole taking pictures or advertising. Because if I were in that situation, I wouldn't want anybody advertising me. And so I struggle with that. But I also had someone that tell me you can't get help if you don't open your mouth and tell them what's going on. And so this has been an incredible opportunity for that. So I want to thank you all for that.
I think it's twofold for you and organizations like you. One, like you want to get funding, so people need to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And two, what about the guy that's, he may be leaving his last house. He doesn't know where he's going next, but he's on Instagram and he sees Open Arms, Albany, Georgia, and an address.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's two sides of it.
It is.
And I think that's what's so cool about you guys, is that you're right here in Albany and you're helping every single person you can.
Yes. And I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. And I like I said, I really appreciate this opportunity to share.
We need to shoot some more videos, because those ones I did were so long ago.
I still use them.
Really?
I do it. If I do a presentation, I still use them.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm grateful. It's nothing like that person telling their story to.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that, but how powerful it is for somebody to, in their own words, to say X, Y. So I'm learning. Even 20-something years later, I'm learning how powerful it is. So I'm grateful that you all have shown me that and are helping me tell the story, spread the word for those people that are suffering from abuse, homelessness, trafficking. Just hard times.
Yeah.
Well,
get a couple stories together and we'll shoot them.
I will. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Blake. Okay.